What?
गुड इवनिंग एंड वेलकम टू गना शॉट। गना शॉट में आप सबका दोबारा स्वागत है। Yesterday we saw the first part of the politico-military assessment of Pakistan's armed forces, and today we'll head into the second part of the whole story. Pakistan Army and the armed forces are a very interesting lot. And to understand them, it takes a long time. That is why I'm giving it in bits and pieces to you. You saw the military part of it yesterday, and today we're going to see something else. And we'll get to that. Right. We need to understand, just to reiterate, I showed this yesterday also. We are mainly talking of the Pakistan Army. The Air Force and the Navy are its tactical handmaidens. But the Navy and the Air Force are part of the loop and completely part of the system which hates India and also milks the nation. Right. Having said that, this is where I derived everything from. What Stephen Cohen said. There are armies which guard their nation's borders. We spoke of it yesterday. There are armies which are concerned with protecting their own position in society. We'll talk of it today. And there are armies which defend the cause and an idea. We'll talk of it tomorrow. But the Pakistan Army does all three. But if I tell you all three together, it's confusing. So I spoke yesterday of guarding the borders. Yeah, that's what we did. And we need to understand, Pakistan has been in a two-front situation from the day it was born. The frontier with Afghanistan was not settled. The frontier with India was not settled. In fact, they chose not to settle it. Their major problem was with the Pashtuns. So what did they do? They sent the Pashtuns and the tribesmen along the border towards Kashmir. This story started in actually 47, 48. After that, there were some issues. A lot of water flew in the Indus. But majorly, they said, look, we can't keep having problems on the western border. So let's send them this side. So Ayub Khan pushed the Kashmiri tribesmen into J&K in 65. And from then to now, they've been at it. And then in between, there's this time when they formed the Mujahideen and sent the Mujahideen into Afghanistan when USSR was occupying Afghanistan. That was only the time when they didn't concentrate too much on Kashmir. When the Afghanistan war or USSR had broken up and they were withdrawing, the early 90s, they had a problem. What do they do with all these armed militants? So they put them back here. This cycle went through. And finally, as India grew and Pakistan remained stunted, this problem got back to them. Now they have to live with it. And I also said yesterday that as Pakistan weakens, it will weaken. There's no doubt about it. Right? It will find alliances with UAE, Saudi Arabia, USA, China, and Turkey. It will trade its geopolitical location to do all this. So this is par for the course. And this two-front equation is now permanent. And then, of course, I spoke about the character of the armed forces, that the Pakistan Army still remains continental force, but the Air Force, Navy, and the Army are still professional. We have to never discount that. The Navy is a fledgling arm about to take off. The Air Force has shackled the Pakistan Army to a large extent. It will continue to do so. But all put together, they are aggressive. They have very little to lose, hence they'll throw caution to the winds. Initial surprise and aggression will always be a feature of Pakistan armed forces. And I spoke that they're going to be a first half armed force. So it's so. Today we'll talk of something very interesting, which is very peculiar to the Pakistan armed forces, protecting their own position in their society. In simpler terms, it is getting hold of the governance. Now let's look at the governance models of Pakistan. From independence 1947 to the time Ayub Khan became the defense minister in 1954. It was a strange arrangement where Ayub Khan was the chief of army staff and also the defense minister. That was the time when they entered the politics of Pakistan formally. From 47 to 54 was 7 years of a suited civilian government. It was very clear by then that the civilian government couldn't carry on. Right? And soon after that, in 1958, Ayub Khan took over and declared martial law. But the period from 54 to 58, if you see in their history, the takeover by Ayub Khan was facilitated by the politicians. Right? And from 58 to 2008, right? I won't say 58 to 2008. Actually, you look at it from 54 because that is when the civilians started getting booted out, the suited getting booted out. So for 50 years, the civilians were booted out intermittently, barring the period when in between Bhutto was the prime minister. But Bhutto was also the chief martial law administrator. For 54 years, the civilians were booted out. The army was in power. Right? And then, ever since Musharraf was deposed in 2008 till now, it is 16 years where the civilians have been voted out. So first, you had a suited government, then a booted out civilian government. Now, the civilians have been perpetually voted out. And how has this been done? This has been done by having a hybrid government. You had prime ministers being removed, elections taking place, elections being rigged, everything by the army. And if you look at it, the PDM 2.0 is also called the hybrid 2.0. But the hybridity of Pakistan government goes back. If you see this, you'll see that, I mean, this is common knowledge. I'm just putting it in a formative way. That the Pakistan army is fully entrenched in governing the country. You cannot think of governance without the Pakistan army there. Okay. Pakistan is a strange state where the center of power is the army and the center of governance is the state or the government. The government governs, but the power resides in the army. And this is something which we have to understand when you do this politico-military assessment. The army has progressively taken over the state to control it. But yet it remains separate. The power remains separate, untouchable. The problems go to the government. It's a very strange thing. And it's the wonder that the Pakistani politicians have agreed to this arrangement. That's the fun. Every war has destroyed the state of Pakistan. It has brought havoc to people. No water. Today, Pakistan is a perpetually food deficient state. It has gone into the state of absolute water scarcity with a burgeoning population. This will not change. And wars have only debilitated their economy. But all that we know. What's so special? The speciality is that it has affected the center of governance. The center of power has not been touched. In fact, the center of power has been reinforced. That's the point. The center of power has never been destroyed. And wars have repeatedly strengthened the armed forces. It's a truism. I'm not saying something new, but it's my conviction. Pakistan can lose. Pakistan armed forces cannot lose. They will always win, despite loss in war. This is something we have to realize. You don't realize it, you're stuck. Then you talk of the Pakistan business empire. We all know that Pakistan has a huge business empire. Industrial plants, residential colonies, schooling, banks, bakeries, transport. Everything is run by various foundations. The Fauji Foundation, the Baria Foundation, everyone. Everyone has a cut. The Navy, Army, and Air Force run their own foundations. You want to know more about it in detail? Please read Ayesha Siddiqa's book. She's written 2 books. The first was long back called Military Incorporated. She's now come out with the second book. I've not had the chance to read the second one. The first one definitely I have. Everyone thinks, look, this is for corruption and lining people's pockets and all that. That is a fact. No doubt. But this Pak army business empire does something far more. It gives political power to the Pakistan army. Let's talk of the MILBUS, Military Business Incorporated. The military businesses of Pakistan are something like the US military industrial complex. Something. Or the same, even the PLA in China was extensively involved in businesses till Xi Jinping came and broke them. Now, of course, the character of these businesses are different. But the business is there. I've told you, I've shown you through that cartoon what all are there. Now, all 3 services are part of this military business empire. What is interesting? The military capital of the armed forces, which is not given by the state, is not part of the defense budget. They are the biggest business in Pakistan. Like I said, they are into everything. Now, what have they done? They have systematically transferred funds from the public to the private sector of the military business system. All contracts, military contracts, are given to their military businesses. No one can come in and take a contract. They are the biggest private landowner. Every Pakistani senior officer is involved in dealing in land. Now, as a result, the Pakistan armed forces are economically strong, independent of the state. It is not individual. The system of the Fauj and the veterans put together are the strongest business empire in Pakistan. It gives them economic strength. And that economic strength gives it political strength. It also gives them political autonomy from the state. And it gives the Pakistan armed forces economic independence. Just think, slowly Pakistan armed forces have been taking over every facet of the industry. Now, they took it to a very high level where in 2019, if you remember, we all know it, I'm not just reiterating these facts. The army chief, Javed Bajwa, he became the member of the National Development Council to reinvigorate businesses and investment into Pakistan. He didn't succeed. But his presence on that board, when the Prime Minister was the head of the National Defense Council, meant something. The Prime Minister was devalued. He used to sit in the chair. Imran Khan used to sit in the chair. And this fellow used to sit somewhere else. But he was the chap who was running the show. So from normal government, normal elections, everything, taking care of the borders, taking care of diplomacy, they caught hold of the economy. They caught hold of the economy internally, externally, anyway, the military businesses handled the economy. Now they've taken it to a different level. In 23, that is last year, Asim Munir set up the SIFC, Special Investment Facilitation Council. Now, what did he do? He went around the Gulf states, he went around UAE, all that. He went to China also. He came back and he said, I will get $20 billion worth of FDI into Pakistan in the next 2 to 3 years. Everyone has promised me, I'll take it. And hence, I need to set up a special investment cell which will monitor all this money coming in and regulate and get FDI into China. And it will never come. But that SIFC has strengthened. So the complete economy of China, he's made a shortcut directly through the SIFC to the businesses and all economic activity of Pakistan. And he controls them. I mean, we have to understand here. Pakistan has a capability of absorbing about maybe $1 billion a year FDI. $20 billion hogwash. And no one is going to give them because everyone knows whatever money is being given to Pakistan as debt will never be repaid back. You'll get services from it, but not repayment of debt. So that's why I said the governance model in Pakistan is today that Pakistan can do what it wants. It can go into debt, shed, everything. Pakistan, the army won't let Pakistan collapse. People won't like army to step out. Because countries like China, USA, Turkey and UAE and Saudis prefer to deal with the army. Now, the politico-economic strength gives the Pakistan armed forces access to unfettered military budgets. It doesn't matter what the budget is. It doesn't matter what is the overall economy is. Pakistan armed forces will take what it wants and then leave the rest to everyone else. So that is why you have defense budget growing by 15% in a year. Economy, GDP is all, it can go to the dogs. Okay. And this is how it varies, this graph. Not so Pak efforts to revive economy. Yeah, it's never Pak. It's all Pakistan armed forces. And then they control the media, information, narratives. How, I mean, it's the basic question today. How does Pakistan cement its place in society and guard its position and control its position? It's got hold of the governance over the past 70 years. Nothing but the governance is separate. It gets stronger with every loss in war. It has its own money through which it controls the government. And then the media. Sab kuch hai. What is? You have to start. The political and economic control enables control of and discipline of the media. Because you have money, you control. Haven't you seen it here? Big wigs who have economic muscle take over media. Today you don't have hardly any free media in India. Free electronic media, TV. TV channels are owned by some interested party or the other. Same thing has happened there. Only thing in Pakistan, it is complete. Okay. And then they have narrative building. Narrative building is through print, social media, everything. And this is all part of cognitive warfare. And Pakistan is wearing a cognitive warfare against the enemy and against its own people. All people are now convinced that they cannot do without the Pakistan army. I don't think in India this is feasible. Okay. This kind of a cognitive warfare, probably they have learned it from China. How to fine tune it. But then I feel that the Pakistan army themselves are masters at this game. What do they do in terms of cognitive warfare? They shape and control the enemy's cognitive thinking and decision making. Their cognitive warfare is so powerful that all of you respond to anything I do on Pakistan. If I do something on China, I don't get the response. Look at it. Pakistan has to do something funny and we all start reacting in India. It's cognitive warfare. They have been successful in shaping our thinking. Okay. Right. What else? Transform the basic beliefs and understanding of the enemy to conform to their will. We believe that Pakistan is irrational and can use a nuke. It's our belief. It's been conditioned. Will it do so? There's no evidence to that. It's not irrational. But we believe it is irrational. पागल है यार, वो कुछ भी कर सकता है. Do you think so? I don't think so. Then they shape what people think, how they think and how they behave internally. I mean, they fine-tuned the whole system. And then they fragment relationships and alliances. We had a good relationship and alliance with Bangladesh, not an alliance, a good relationship. You've seen what's happened in Bangladesh. Today, Bangladesh is virtually every Bangladeshi who comes on this channel talks as if he is my enemy. I'm going to do a thing on, to tell Bangladesh who are your real enemies and who are your real friends. They have to take a choice. I'm going to show them a mirror, but that is later. That's on 6th. I'll do it with Shreyas ji. But they have done it. And then they do also control. All this is through the cognitive warfare, ISPR, all that. They control the leadership. They control the decision-making process. And ensure that everyone willingly conforms to their will. And they've done it beautifully. I mean, you have to hand it to them that they've done it. The thing here is something very important we must. Today we are living in an age of narratives in information warfare. The attack of the next generation will come as a surprise because we don't know what they're going to do, how it's going to come on us. Will it come in the J&K elections which are to be held or elsewhere? You do not prepare for it. You do not understand what they're doing. This is like suicide. Period. You have to understand what these jokers are up to. You have to control their narratives. You should not react to their narratives. The amount of comments I got on the first, part is not funny. All of them are pointing a finger at me as if I'm an idiot. If I believe it, I will feel like an idiot. And I'm sure after this, there'll be a lot of comments from Pakistan. Look, the man behind the gun is more important. It is the brain in the man behind the gun which is even more important. How his mind space is shaped will determine who he targets, when, where, and how he presses the trigger. If you cannot control the mind, rather, if you control the mind, you control the target and the trigger. This is the belief system of the Pakistan Armed Forces, and they've been doing it successfully. Just instead of saying man behind the gun, substitute leadership for man behind the gun. So they're targeting your leadership day in and day out. And they have a center, and this they've given to the Pakistan Air Force. And they believe that the brain will be the battle space of the 21st century. They understand it better than us. And this is the very interesting part. There is a power triangle in Pakistan. And this power triangle, the shape and size of this triangle changes. And the triangle has army at the apex, elites, that is the political elites, PPP, PML, and PTI at one end, and the judiciary is the third leg of this triangle. The army and the judiciary, plus any one or two parties, will be greater than the others. So what does the army always do? If you see, they keep the judiciary on its side, and one party they'll propagate. They did it with Imran Khan, PTI plus judiciary plus the army. PPP and PMLN out. Go back to the time 2008, Musharraf, how was it deposed? At that time, the judiciary and the parties, at that time PTI was not there, P1 and P2, they got together and threw the army out. Or rather, the danger last year was the judiciary was part this side, part that side. So half the judiciary plus PTI, P1, was almost it threw out the army. And the other two parties were inconsequential. Somehow, this chief of army staff got around with other judiciary and party and absolutely caught hold of everyone and retrieved this situation back to the first. Army plus judiciary plus P1 plus P2, PPP plus PML greater than PTI. Even if PTI is the most popular party in town, it doesn't matter. I'm not saying PTI is good. PTI is even worse. But that's a different story. We are talking about the Pakistan Armed Forces and how they control everything. So, you look at it, how do they cement, how have they cemented their position in society? Through these methods. They've taken over the government slowly. Everything in the government is with them. The decision making is virtually nowhere. They've waged cognitive warfare against everyone, outside, inside, everyone. Everyone is convinced that the army is the thing. It doesn't matter if Pakistan loses, they win always and they come out stronger. And then they have this military business empire with which gives them political clout. Then this media control, and they play this triangle beautifully. And this is how, if you see, right from 1954, the army has controlled Pakistan, and progressively the control is become more. And day by day, the civilians are losing out, and they'll continue to lose out. This is where, today's part 2 ends. I'll not talk more. I'll take questions. And of course, just to let you know, tomorrow we will talk of Pakistan's belief system. How do they defend a cause or an idea? It's again very interesting. I said I'll give you short episodes so that you can reflect on it. And then we'll see where it goes. If I can't do this episode tomorrow, I'll do it a little later. And I'll do a recap of all this. And then we'll get back. Right? And this is how the whole story is. And what we'll do is we'll take questions now. And I'm open to all questions. A lot of people come.